Women communicate desire through codes most men never learn to read, and the signals you're missing are the ones that matter most. Here's what nobody tells you. She's already told you everything you need to know. You just weren't listening to the right language. This isn't about tricks. It's not about manipulation. This is about understanding a fundamental asymmetry in human communication, one that's been shaping your interactions with women since you were old enough to feel attraction. Men speak directly, women speak in subtext. And if you don't understand subtext, you're living in a world where half the conversation is invisible to you. You miss opportunities, you misread situations, you stay confused while other men seem to just know. But it's not instinct they have, it's literacy. They learn to read a language you were never taught existed. And here's why this matters philosophically. Your reality is constructed by what you can perceive. If you cannot decode certain signals, those signals might as well not exist. You're living in a reduced version of social reality, a world where women's interest appears random, where connection feels like luck, where you're always one step behind wondering what you missed. The man who understands these signals doesn't live in that world. He lives in a different reality entirely. One where intention is visible, where interest has shape and weight and texture. This is about perception, and perception is everything. The research tells us something fascinating. According to studies in nonverbal communication and evolutionary psychology, over 70% of human communication is nonverbal. But here's the part that changes everything. Women rely on indirect communication significantly more than men do, not because of deception, because of design. Anthropologists call this plausible deniability. Psychologists call it perceptive behavior. But what it really is protection. Throughout human history, women faced unique social costs for expressing desire openly, reputation, safety, social standing. So they evolved a different system, a system of signals that communicate interest while maintaining protection. Signals that the right man would understand and the wrong man would miss entirely. This is why she doesn't just tell you, she can't. Not in the way you're expecting. Behavioral psychologist Monica Moore documented this in her field studies of flirtation. She identified over 52 distinct nonverbal signals women use to indicate interest. And most men recognize maybe 5. But here's what matters. These aren't random. They follow patterns. Patterns you can learn to recognize once you know what you're looking for. The signals exist in clusters. They escalate in intensity. They create what researchers call cascades of interest. One signal alone means little. 3 signals together means something. 5 signals in sequence mean everything. And the man who can read this progression, he's living in a completely different world than the man who can't. So let's talk about what you're actually looking for, not the obvious signals. Everyone knows about eye contact and smiling. We're going deeper into the hidden architecture of female desire, the signals that exist in the margins, in the spaces between words, in the micro behaviors most men dismiss as meaningless. These are the signals that separate the men who understand women from the men who spend their lives confused by them. Watch where she positions herself, not just physically, spatially, energetically. When a woman is interested, she enters your orbit. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't explain it. She just appears in the break room where you get coffee at the gym around the time you usually work out. In the section of the bookstore, you mentioned you like coincidence once, maybe twice, possibly 3 times. That's pattern recognition. That's intentionality. And here's the key. She positions herself in your proximity, but not in your face. Close enough to be noticed, far enough to maintain plausible deniability. This is the dance. Psychologists call this strategic positioning. She's creating opportunities for interaction without forcing them. The amateur looks for her to approach directly. The aware man recognizes the environment itself is being shaped. She's not coming to you. She's engineering situations where you'll come to her, and if you don't, she'll drift away without explanation, without confrontation, as if she was never there at all. This is why most men think women aren't interested in them. They're waiting for direct approach, while she's already approached a dozen times just in a language they never learned to speak. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. When a woman is secretly interested in you, she doesn't always give you more attention. Sometimes she gives you less, but it's a different kind of less. She might not text you constantly, but when she does, the messages are carefully constructed, thoughtful, personal. She might not stare at you in conversation, but when you look away, her eyes track back to you. She might not laugh loudly at your jokes in a group, but she'll remember the reference 3 weeks later in a private conversation. This is selective attention, high investment attention. The woman who's casually friendly gives everyone equal energy. The woman who's interested gives you inconsistent energy because she's managing something, her exposure, her vulnerability, the risk that you'll see through her. Behavioral research shows this clearly. When women are attracted to someone, their cortisol levels rise. Stress, not the bad kind, the kind that comes from high-stakes situations. She's nervous, so she regulates her attention to protect herself. She pulls back to maintain control, but the pullback is never complete. There's always a thread, always a door left slightly open, and if you're watching carefully, you'll see her glancing back to check if you notice the door. When she sees you, watch what happens to her hands. Not her words, her hands. Does she touch her hair, adjust her clothing, smooth down her sleeves? These aren't random movements, they're primal. Ethologists, scientists who study animal behavior, call this pining. It's a universal biological signal of attraction across species. When an organism encounters a potential mate, it unconsciously attempts to improve its appearance. She's not thinking about it. Her body is doing it for her. But here's the distinction. The key isn't that she's touching herself, it's when she's doing it. If she adjusts her hair while talking to everyone, it's habit. If she adjusts her hair right after you enter the room, right after you make eye contact, right after you say something that lands, that's not habit, that's response. The timing tells you everything. Watch for the micro adjustments that happen in your presence. The smoothing of fabric when you sit down nearby, the lip bite when you're talking, the way she positions her body to be seen from your angle. These are involuntary displays. Her biology advertising before her mind can intervene. And most men miss all of it because they're listening to her words, while her body is screaming a completely different message. Touch is a language, but not all touch speaks the same dialect. When a woman is interested, she doesn't grab you. She doesn't announce physical contact. She tests. The touch gradient is a progression, a carefully calibrated escalation. And if you don't understand the sequence, you'll misread everything. It starts with proximity, touch. She brushes past you in a space that's not crowded. Her shoulder grazes. Yours when there's room to avoid it. Her knee touches yours under the table. Then it lingers just half a second longer than necessary. That half second is the message. If it was an accident, she'd pull away immediately. Apologize, create distance. But she doesn't. She maintains the contact just long enough for your nervous system to register it. Then she withdraws slowly. This is the test. She's watching how you respond. Do you tense up? Do you lean away? Do you pretend it didn't happen? Or do you allow it? Do you stay present? Do you reciprocate with the same calibrated energy? If you pass the test, the gradient continues. Next comes incidental touch. She hands you something and her fingers brush yours. She touches your arm when she's laughing. She adjusts your collar and mentions some small detail. Each touch is framed as having a reason, but the reason is the excuse. The touch is the message. And here's what the research shows. Touch increases bonding hormones, oxytocin in both parties. Women know this instinctively, so when she's interested, she creates opportunities for contact that feel natural, casual, deniable, but they're engineered. Every single one. And if you're not touching her back, if you're not meeting her in this language, she'll assume you're not interested. And the gradient will stop permanently without explanation, without confrontation, just silence. Time is the currency of interest, and women don't spend it randomly. When she's secretly interested, watch where her time flows, not what she says about her schedule, where her hours actually go. She tells you she's busy, she probably is. But here's the question, is she busy for you? Because there's a difference between being busy and being unavailable. The woman who's genuinely uninterested will tell you she's busy and leave it there. No alternative, no counter offer. The woman who's Interested will tell you she's busy on Thursday and immediately suggests Saturday. This is the counter-offer principle. She's protecting her time, but she's making space for you within it. That distinction is everything, and it shows up in smaller ways too. She responds to your messages even when she's overwhelmed, not instantly, but consistently. She remembers details from conversations 3 weeks ago. She brings up things you mentioned in passing. She asks follow-up questions about your life. This is cognitive investment. She's not just spending time with you. She's spending mental energy on you when you're not around, thinking about you, remembering you, constructing a model of who you are. And here's what psychological research tells us. People invest mental energy in things they find rewarding and outcomes they desire. If she's remembering the small things you say, if she's asking questions that show she's been thinking about your answers, she's building something in her mind, a narrative, a possibility, a future. But she won't tell you that directly. She'll just keep adding pieces, waiting to see if you notice, waiting to see if you add pieces too. And if you don't, the puzzle stays incomplete, and eventually she stops trying to finish it. When a woman wants you, she marks territory, not with words, with presence. She starts appearing in your spaces, not invading, occupying. She leaves traces of herself in your environment. A hair tie on your table, her jacket forgotten at your place, her coffee order memorized by the barista at the spot you frequent. These aren't accidents. This is what anthropologists call nesting behavior. She's integrating herself into your territory, creating reasons to return, creating associations between her presence and your spaces. And it works in reverse, too. She invites you into her spaces, not formally, casually. I'm making dinner. You should stop by. I'm watching that show you mentioned. Want to join? She's testing compatibility in her environment, seeing how you fit into the architecture of her daily life. But here's the deeper signal. She defends your access to her territory. When other men try to enter her space, she creates boundaries. She mentions you, references you, uses you as a shield without making it obvious. I'm actually meeting someone later. A friend is coming over tonight. I'm not really free this week. The other man hears rejection, but what she's really doing is protecting the space she's creating for you. Territorial behavior in evolutionary psychology is a sign of mate selection. Animals defend resources they intend to use. She's defending time, space, energy for you. And if you're not recognizing this, if you're not reciprocating by creating space for her in your life, she'll read it as disinterest. And the territory she was carving out, it'll close. Listen to what she says. But more importantly, listen to what she's asking you to hear. Women speak in subtext. The surface statement is rarely the real message. She says, I never do this usually. What she means, I'm making an exception for you. She says, I'm not really looking for anything serious right now. What she means, I'm protecting myself because I don't know if you're serious. She says, we should hang out sometime. What she means, I want you to suggest a specific plan. The untrained ear hears the words. The aware man hears the invitation beneath them. And here's the key. When she uses uncertain language, maybe sometime, we'll see. It's not indifference. It's plausible deniability. She's giving herself an exit route in case you reject her. Women fear rejection just as much as men do, maybe more, because historically, expressing desire openly carried social consequences for women that men never faced. So she speaks in possibilities instead of certainties and may instead of absolutes. And she watches how you respond. Do you meet her in the subtext? Do you respond to the real message? Or do you take her words literally and miss the entire point? She says, I'm terrible at cooking. You say, oh, me too. Missed. She says, I'm terrible at cooking. You say, guess I'll have to cook for you sometime. Received. The difference is everything because she's not giving you another chance to catch it. She's moved on, recalibrated, filed you under, doesn't get it. And the door that was open, it just closed quietly, completely. Here's what this is really about. Not manipulation, not games, understanding. Women aren't trying to confuse you. They're speaking a language that evolved over thousands of years of social complexity, a language designed to communicate interest while managing risk. And if you're not fluent in it, you're not worse than other men. You're just illiterate in a language nobody taught you existed. But here's the truth that changes everything. Literacy can be learned. You can train yourself to see these signals, to recognize patterns, to read the subtext, not to manipulate, but to meet her where she actually is. Because that's what she's doing. She's already meeting you where you are. Speaking your language when necessary, being direct when you need direction, but in the spaces where she can't be direct, where vulnerability is too risky, where the social cost is too high, she's building a bridge from her side, and she's waiting, watching to see if you'll build from yours. Most men never build. They stand on their side, wondering why women are so complicated, why they never make the first move, why nothing ever seems clear. But the men who learn this language, they see a completely different world, one where women are making moves constantly, where interest is visible and readable and actionable, where the signals that seemed random before now form coherent patterns, messages, invitations, and suddenly connection isn't luck anymore. It's literacy, the ability to read what's already being written. She's been telling you the whole time in the way she positions herself near you, in the attention she regulates, in the unconscious pining when you appear, in the gradient of touch, in the time she carves out, in the territory she marks, in the subtext beneath every word. The signals are there. They've always been there. The only question is, are you finally ready to learn how to read?